Hey Anthony, in our last lesson we talked about position play, the 5 rules of position play, and probably the most important one that you're going to learn and expand upon with this next lesson is don't create position if you don't have to. If the table gives you position, don't create position. This lesson is all about navigating the table without using rails. So what you'll find is that using the rails is definitely much easier. Like I said, perfection is the enemy of good, and so we use those rails to come into shot lines, to come into shape zones, whenever possible. But that doesn't mean that we don't need to know how to navigate the table without using rails, and that's what this lesson is all about, is identifying that stop shot run out, that boring pool player mentality of how do we land on the right spot of the table for the next shot, especially when the table gives us the position. So this drill that you can see here, it's got 15 balls all spaced out on the diamonds. If you can imagine your table being a grid, it'll be pretty easy to line those up. Use a laser level. If you have one, a straight edge, anything like that to assist you in setting up the drill. And I would definitely recommend getting some paper reinforcement circles to lay out on your table, because as you're practicing this drill, you want to be able to set it up exactly the same way each time, and even more so easily. So with this drill, this is called the Brainwash Drill, and there's a whole bunch of different drills that are basically set up exactly like this. You may have even seen videos or heard it called the Matrix. Um, well, we call this the brainwash drill, and one of the reasons for that is it's going to completely brainwash your mind into seeing the patterns that the table gives you. And that's very, very important, because if you do this drill, and this is the way I want you to do it, is practice this drill for 1 hour a day, 3 times a week, for 3 weeks. And by the time that you're done with that, you'll have done this drill for 9 total hours, and that's enough for you to be able to start seeing the table completely differently, where you won't have to guess about which ball to shoot at next to get to the next ball. And you'll start being able to get more of those stop shot runouts. Very seldom will you have a complete table run out that's all stop shots. Certainly with some games, you'll find more of that than others. 9 ball's a little bit tricky sometimes when you only have one option, and that's what's nice about 8 ball is you have other options. You got plan Bs, and that kind of falls into our original thought that perfection's the enemy of good, and to be humble enough to say I'm not perfect, I need to have a plan B. That's going to help you out a lot. But in any case, the way that this drill operates, you'll start off with ball in hand. You can place that cue ball anywhere that you want, and from there you're going to continue to shoot until all the balls are cleared out. Now, one of the things that you're going to want to do is get in the habit of walking around the table, doing a full lap around the table in between shots whenever possible. And the reason for that is many of these shots, if we play stop shots, for example, the cue ball, if I put this 2 in the side pocket, the cue ball is going to be in the ghost ball location here. And as you can see, it sets me up for a pretty much dead straight shot for that 11 ball, or for the 6 ball, or for the 13 if the 10 wasn't in the way. Of course, it would be the same thing for the 4. We've got multiple options just from one ghost ball location. Now, with each of these shots, we have different pockets that they can go into. Um, Take, for example, the 6 ball. If I want to shoot this 6 ball right now, I want to start off with that. Here's a ghost ball location if I put it in the side pocket. And that gives me a couple of options, but none of them look straight. The 2's kind of straight, but it's not perfectly straight. I also have the option of putting the 6 ball in this pocket down here. And if I do that, I get a completely different line. I get the 14, which is a straight shot. So just recognize that when you have different pockets available, each ghost ball location in a perfect stop shot run out type of situation is going to give you different options. What we'd like to do for a stop shot run out, and again, I use that term loosely because we're going to be doing things like stun follow, stun draw, trying to pinch and squeeze that cue ball just to move it just a little bit here and there. But for the most part, the cue ball is going to not travel very much. It's not like using the rails where cue ball is going to bounce into a rail and bounce back out. Of course, the object of this drill is not to use any rails. So as you're pinching and squeezing and maneuvering things around, understand that a full to a 3/4 ball hit whenever possible is going to be the best thing for you. Once you start approaching that half ball angle, that 30 degree cut, you're really going to be risking moving that cue ball into the rails and things like that. And of course, we don't want to have to use things like spin induced throw to pocket the balls. We'd like to do this center ball wherever possible because, well, why use side spin if we don't need to? So we're going to be looking at 3 balls ahead, just like what we talked about with that type of with the 5 rules of position play. So that's not going to be changing. What is going to be changing from the 5 rules of position play that we talked about with using the rails is we're not really going to be coming into shot lines so much because we're not coming into the rails. Sure, the cue ball might drift down the table with a stun or something like that towards the next line, but for the most part, we're not really doing coming into the lines. What we do need to make sure of that we're doing is landing on the right side of the ball to get to the next one if we do have to maneuver that cue ball, because right now we can pluck off 4 or 5 at a time with stop shots if we choose the right pattern. As we get lower and lower and you have less alternative shots to choose from, that's going to be a little bit tougher to do. And it'll take a little bit of careful cue ball control. So speaking of that, alternative shots are important to recognize. In 8-ball, you have options, and sometimes you'll send the cue ball into a cluster where your positioning isn't quite perfect for one ball. In 9-ball, you're forced to shoot at that one ball, and you better get shape on it, and that's why I call that the lie detector. Because in 8-ball, you have other plans, you have other options, and if you get out of shape a little bit, by sending the cue ball into an area where you have multiple shots, it's going to increase your percentages, and that's what this game is all about. So I'm going to do the best that I can to try and navigate this table and give you a demonstration of what a potential run out could look like. And it looks like these guys are all drifting, so I'm just going to adjust those, straighten them out a little bit, and that definitely makes a difference as to whether or not the balls go into the corner pockets, because most of these shots you'll have a couple of different options. So I'm just going to start off. I like to start off with one of these 4 balls here, the 6, 11, 12, or 7, the way that I have it lined up. And the reason why I like to do that is it gives me a bunch of different options. A slight draw, just a stun draw, allows me to get shape for that 13. Dead stop gives me a dead stop on that 1, so on and so forth. I like to have options because I know I'm not good enough to land that cue ball exactly where I want it to go, exactly every single time, exactly the same way. So I'm going to play percentages and recognize that. So my goal here is I'm gonna try and pocket that 6 ball just with a nice dead stop shot, then play for the 1 in this corner pocket with a stop shot, and then play for that 7 ball in that side pocket with a dead stop shot. I should mention also that we need to keep in mind for a key ball. So in the last lesson I was explaining about how if we were to use an object ball as if it's the ghost ball, I want to pocket the 8 last. So which ball would give me the best shape for that 8 with that type of stop shot idea? It's really important to have a key ball in mind, and we're going to leave that on the table until we're ready to shoot the key ball and get shape for the 8. And that way we're able to have straighter shots. If we're going to make an error, it's probably going to be once we have less balls on the table, less options. And so, picking the right key ball is going to be helpful. I like the key ball here, the 11 or the 12, to go into either one of those corner pockets. So right now, I'm just going to say that 11 is my key ball. If I get out of shape, I have the choice of taking that 11 earlier. and then in which case I'll leave my, my 12 for my key ball when I need it. Okay, so sticking with my original plan, as you can tell, this is a pretty finesse type of drill. I take a look here where my ghost ball is. If I land a nice dead stop shot on that one ball, it's going to give me a nice ghost ball effect on the 7. And since I've pocketed one ball, I still need to think 3 balls ahead. So I'm adding another ball. I already pocketed my 6. My plan was the 6, the 1, and then the 7. 6 is gone, so now my first shot is the 1. Second shot's the 7. And then my third shot, I'm going to plan on for the 10 ball. Just a slight draw, a little stun draw, leaves me straight for that 10 ball. So that's my plan. Alright, so I landed pretty good, and as we talked about before, if you get on the wrong side of the ball, you can prevent that a lot of times just by knowing which side of the ball you want to be on. Do I want to roll? If I'm going to not land perfect, would I rather roll forward or would I rather draw backwards a little bit? Just in case we're not going to have a dead stop. So here on this 10 ball, for example, if I look at my ghost ball here, I'm going to have a little bit of an angle on the 10. So if I'm going to err, I'd rather put a little bit of draw on that. If I do a dead stop in the ghost ball location, well, that doesn't give me a straight shot on the 9 ball either, or the 2. It doesn't really give me a straight shot anywhere. So if I'm going to make an error, by drawing it back just a little bit on that same straight line, I could get perfect on the 10. I have a possibility of getting perfect on the 13 and a possibility of getting perfect on that 9. So if I'm going to make an error, in this case, I'd rather put a little bit of draw on it, understanding that I might not be perfect. Alright, so I got that nice little half a ball turn, little stun draw. I don't love my angle on that 10 ball. It's about a 3/4 ball hit. Certainly something I can work with, but I don't need to take that right now. I don't have to deal with what the table gave me there because I have that same 3/4 ball hit here on that 13, which gives me options. If I come over here and take a look at this 9 ball, and that's much straighter. So I'm probably going to play for that 9 ball, and the ghost ball location for that leaves me that 4 pretty good. Now I'd like to work in these clusters. I'd really like to stay down here, but I also understand that based on the last shot, my best chance of continuing my run is to choose another shot that gets me pretty straight. It's not about the length of the shot, it's about the angle. So I'm going to take that 9 ball, see where it lands me. If I land good, I'll have that 4. If I drift to the left a little bit too much, I have the 12. I have the potential 10. Again, thinking about what if I go too far in one direction or another, we want to stay on the right side of the line. My best chance of staying on the right side of the line is to pick which side of that line I'd rather be on if I can't land perfect. Alright, so we'll look around here. My 4 is pretty good and straight. I don't really have another good angle. And if I play that 4 nice and straight, play that stop shot, then I'm going to have a nice stop shot for the 14. That gives me one option there. If I draw back just a little bit, I'll have a few other options. Even a roll forward, just a hair, gives me that 10. So here I can play this just about any way that I want to, as long as I don't move that cue ball too much. I'll try for that just nice dead stop because that's the way I like to play. And I had just a little bit of an angle there, which allowed that cue ball to float over just a little bit. Now if I play for the dead stop on that 14, I'm going to have to do something from that 14. I can't just play a dead stop. I'll have to go forward or backwards because I am straight. I don't have another shot that gives me the type of angle necessary to get me back in line. So I'm going to draw this cue ball back a little bit. My goal here is if I can draw the cue ball back into about this zone, I have two options, or I'm sorry, I have one option of that 12, which then brings me back to my original key ball. If I stun over just a little bit and miss that 3-2, then I've got that 5 as an option with a 3/4 ball hit. There's a few different options. I want to keep my run going here. Sometimes you just got to see what the table gives you. I've got a nice stop shot there on that 12 ball if I take that 14. Here's the importance of walking around the table. My original plan was to do something more than I needed to do. There was no need for me to draw the cue ball back and ask for that cue ball to come back 6 inches. My stop shot here on that 14 pretty much puts me right in line to continue my run with the 12 ball. Walking around the table is so important. Try to chalk and walk at the same time. Try to do your thinking with your chalk in your hand so when you get down you can just execute. Alright, so I've got just a little bit of an angle. Certainly it's somewhere between a 3/4 and a full ball hit. I'm very, very happy with that. It allows me to stay continuing on. Of course, now I'm about to take my my 12 ball, which was one of the 2 potential key balls that I had, which means that 11 ball is going to stay on the table no matter what I do. And if I walk around the table just a little bit, a slight drift forward actually allows me to put that 13 into that corner pocket. It's a tight fit though. If I drift forward just a little bit more, I can stay reasonably straight on that 2 ball and continue on. That would be a nice way for me to continue on with these balls here. I got to figure out what I'm going to do. I'm already identifying that 10 ball is going to be a challenge for me. So what if I roll forward? If I roll forward, I have that same opportunity to continue my run using that 2 ball. If I can get past that 3. And if I go too far, I have the 13 still as an option. I also have that 15 as an option. And because I have that slight drift to the right, I might even land good on the 10. So landing on the correct side of the line, thinking about percentages, my best chance of continuing my run is to come down past that 3. So I'd like to follow that cue ball up just a little bit, past that 3 ball. Okay. So I got past the 3. Thankfully, that part worked out, but I didn't get enough to the right to have more options. I'm pretty limited at this point. I've got my 2 ball, I've got my 15. If I play for that 15, then at that point I'm pretty much out of options because the only balls that are nearer are the 8 and the 11. I know I got to shoot the 11 last as a key ball to get to the 8. So I don't think that 15 is going to help me. I think I'm going to be better off playing this 2 ball, just a little bit of draw, so I can continue my run using that 5. I won't be able to hold it. Walking around the table, the 3 is not an option because I can't hold it, and right now that pocket is blocked here by the 10, which continues to be a problem for me. Okay, so that worked out okay. I happen to have a good line on both the 13 and on the 5. So that means I can continue my run. And I'm trying to identify which one of these is going to give me a better chance to get to that 10. I like the idea of using the 13 to get to the 10 because that is already right here. Again, if we think about an object ball as being like it's the cue ball for the next shot, I'd like to either use the 3 or the 13 as that cue ball for the next shot for the 10. Since I have a shot on the 5 that gets me pretty straight shot on the 13, that's the one I'm going to use. So I'd like to use the 5, the 13, and then the 10 here. And I put a little bit too much draw on that ball. As you can see, new cloth tends to slide a little bit more. So I did not get to hold that cue ball, put too much of a stroke. Again, that's where the joys of knowing what you can do and recognizing that we are not perfect really come into handy. I can't get past that 13 to shoot for the 10. I can throw this 3 ball in. I prefer not to. I can stun it with a little bit of draw and hold that cue ball, which might actually land me perfect for the 10, which is kind of a backwards plan, right? Originally I wanted to use the 13 to get to the 10. Now instead I'm going to use the 10 to get to the 13. And that seems like it's probably the best option. If I was to play that 13, well, at least the way that I have the setup on here, the 13 doesn't quite pass the 10, so I might not have been perfectly straight when I set up my shots, when I set up the drill. Another great reason for using paper reinforcements. So I'm going to try and kill this cue ball so it doesn't move a whole lot. And if I have a dead straight shot on that 10, drifting that cue ball straight down this tangent line here is not a bad place to be. All right. So one of the things about matrix drill or the brainwash drill you don't want to do is also run into another ball. I got really close to touching that 8 ball. I'm glad I didn't, but that is one of the things that you want to try and avoid. No touching a ball and no touching a rail. I've got a 3/4 ball hit on this 10 ball, which would be nice. Problem is that cue ball is going to drift a little bit, and I don't have this pocket available for the 13. So that means I'd have to stun this cue ball to here for this other corner pocket, or way over here for the side pocket, and that is definitely coming across shot lines. And that 11 ball is set up real nice, and I can continue my run, and with a stop shot on that 11, I've got my stop shots to get out, but that means that now my 15 is going to be my key ball, and that's going to take some cue ball control in order to be able to pull that cue ball back just a little bit. As we saw in a few shots before, it's a lot easier to do a stop shot or to draw too much or to draw too little, but it's really hard to nail down such a precise draw shot. But that's where we're at. If I'm going to complete this drill, that's my best chance of doing so. A nice stop shot on that 11 ball gives me a nice stop shot on the 10. I don't need to do anything more fancy than that. So that's what we're going to play for, is the 11, 10, 13, then the 15, and the 8. The angle that I get on the 15 is going to be critical to if this is going to be a 14 or a 15 ball run out. Nice and straight, just the way I wanted it to be. If I look at where the ghost ball is, I'm going to have a slight angle coming forward off that 13. If I play just a small draw, then I can get straight on that. I got to think to myself, what's my highest percentage? My highest percentage is going to be playing the dead stop shot, not trying to draw it back perfectly just a couple of inches to finish a complete run. And if I'm going to err on the side of one way or another, I'd rather be on this side of that 13, so I'm heading towards that 15 ball. So I'm going to play for the stop shot. That's going to, again, be, it's not perfect, but it's percentage-wise, it's a higher percentage for me. All right. That little bit of draw and slight cut. It cheated the pocket. Wasn't even on my mind to do so, but that's the way it goes sometimes. And again, we're not perfect. We are not perfect. We'll never be perfect. We're working towards perfection, and that happened to help me out. Just subconsciously, for whatever reason, my brain says, "Let's cheat the pocket. We'll get a better angle." Thank you, brain, but that's the reality of what happened there. So I'm pretty good on that 13. I'm slightly on the proper side. It's not a dead shot. If I don't cut it at all, I'll miss the shot. So I have to give it a little bit of a cut. Again, this is one of those where it's somewhere in between a 3/4 and a full ball hit. And I want to look at this 15 and I say, well, shoot, I'm not going to get directly on the line. To pull it back would be nice. If I'm going to have an error, I'd rather be slightly on this side of the line, because if I'm on this side of the line, I don't have a chance unless I can roll that cue ball forward and play for the 8 ball on the side. I really like to stay on this side of that 15. So there's my dead stop. Again, thinking about staying on the correct side of the line. If I'm going to make an error, if I can't land on the line, I'd rather pull it back a little bit too far and be on this side of the line, so that I can pull the cue ball away from the 8, expanding the shape zone instead of being bottlenecked on the tight side of the angle. I'd much rather be on the wide side. So if I'm going to make an error, a little bit too much draw would be better here. All right. Again, there's my dead stop line. I'm slightly on the correct side, so now my only focus is I need to draw that cue ball back, and I'm going to step behind my next shot and think about where's perfect at. If I'm going to draw that cue ball back, about 6 inches, 8 inches or so would be nice. I want to really try to leave myself about that 3/4 to a full ball hit. And I got to be cautious to make sure that cue ball spins immediately after contact, and I don't use too much power and have it drive into the rail, because no matter how much spin you put on that cue ball, if you hit it too hard, like tires on ice, that cue ball can't grip. It just follows the tangent line. From this side of the table, it looks like I'm okay. And from this side of the table, it looks pretty darn good too. So there you have it. There's a demonstration. It's certainly doable. I couldn't have done it without pattern play. Couldn't have done it without ball pocketing. Couldn't have done it without understanding how to control that cue ball. All three of those work together. But now, at this point in your game, you've learned ball pocketing, you've learned cue ball control, and now it's a matter of putting it all together. We couldn't do that run just blindly pocketing balls at whichever one. We really had to put some thought into which one it goes, which way we're going to do it, using the 5 rules of pattern play, using that stop shot run out. Hopefully that was boring for you to watch, because that's the type of pool player that I want to be, and I want to make you even more boring than me. So give me a shout if you have any questions, and good luck. Remember, 1 hour per day for 3 days for a week, and 3 weeks, and I guarantee you're going to start being able to read the table a whole lot better, increase your runs, and win more matches. Thanks.